Hi, I'm Kristin Grassel Schmidt, and I serve the Church of the Larger Fellowship as Minister in Residence this year. I'm very glad to be with you in worship today. As I began to draw my thoughts together about this month's theme of forgiveness, I have to admit I hit a bit of an emotional roadblock. It's certainly not that I have anything against forgiveness. I think it's part of a healthy life. It's just that there are so many things in the world to be angry about right now. Just watching the news has become an exercise in anger or anxiety management for me. Seems like if the feature story isn't about the crummy economy or the ongoing wars in so many countries, it's about yet another environmental crisis, or even another hate crime fueled by racism or homophobia or religious intolerance. It just seems like there are so many things happening right now that are just unforgivable. I think about all of the women and men and children in Somalia who are being kept from the food and water that they need to survive. And I think about the power-hungry men who are keeping it from them. And I am angry with them. And I think about the mortgage lenders whose questionable lending practices led to our housing market crisis here in the United States. And I'm pretty angry about that too. I know a lot of people who've lost their jobs and lost their homes. And you know what? I think we have every right to be angry about these things. When we see injustice or oppression, when we see things that truly are not fair, laws and a tax system that seem to benefit the rich and powerful at the expense of everyone else. I think when we feel anger about these kinds of things, this isn't just normal anger. I think this is righteous anger. So I began thinking about the relationship between anger and forgiveness. It seems almost like our minds and our hearts are hardwired to feel angry when things are not fair. Anger certainly floods me really, really fast when I'm cut off in traffic or someone says something cruel to me or when I see others being mistreated. I've rarely ever felt forgiveness or the urge to forgive as quickly as I have felt anger come into my heart. Even though anger may be hardwired in us, and even though we may be completely justified in being angry with someone, there's another part of anger, another aspect of it. It takes an awful lot of our energy. Sustaining real anger, real righteous anger, can dry up our emotional wells and take a huge mental toll. At some point, carrying our anger can just get to be a bigger job than we bargained for. As one sage put it, for everything there is a time and purpose under heaven, and there is definitely a time for us to be angry. But for every time we feel angry, there also comes a time to let go, a time to put our burdens of anger down, and a time to free up our energy and ourselves for healing. As I've wrestled with this notion of forgiving the unforgivable, letting go of anger about the seemingly unending string of atrocities and inequities in our world, my thoughts have turned to the Jewish tradition. This week marks a poignant time for Jewish communities all over the world. Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, is this week, and that actually begins 10 days that are all about the business of forgiveness. Now, the culmination of those 10 days, Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement, is traditionally considered the most important because it's the time when the community gathers to try to get right again with God. But it's the days in between, those 10 days beforehand, that I find the most compelling in this tradition, because those 10 days are all about getting right with one another, getting right with our fellow human beings here on earth. It's not easy to forgive, especially when it's on someone else's schedule. I imagine that this yearly practice of forgiveness, these 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, would be very challenging if I didn't feel like I was ready to forgive, but my community expected me to. This kind of reminds me of the older brother in the story of the prodigal son. He certainly doesn't seem like he's ready to forgive his younger brother, but his father expects it of him. This is tough, but in many ways I think it's also wise. If I waited until I felt like I was completely ready to forgive terrorists or forgive the mortgage bankers who led to our economic crisis in the United States, it might never happen. But most importantly, I also recognize that terrorists and mortgage bankers and plenty of other people who have made me angry or truly upset or hurt me, they don't deserve the energy and the attention that I put into sustaining anger against them. I think part of forgiveness is recognizing that our energy is precious and our energies can be used to bless the world rather than to continue to be angry at other people. This is the forgiveness that I seek this month. Forgiveness that will help me to let go of my anger with so many things and people in the world so that I can free up my energy to do good things, to bless the world. Might we all find this forgiveness in our hearts and in our lives. This I pray in the name of all that we find holy. Amen.